venons donc de terminer.
We have finished the first category of pitches for the day today, and you're now going to a panel discussion. BlueInvest Africa encourages interconnection between investors and blue economy entrepreneurs from Africa, knowing the importance of investment in the growth of our companies. It is for this reason that today I will invite to you some experts who are going to speak about investment in this economy in Africa and the actions they carry out on the ground to enable entrepreneurs to access to greater market access. Before calling on the panel moderator, who will be joined by their co-panelists, I would like to share a practical experience during the first edition of Blue Invest Africa in Seychelles, and this is for our pitchers. Yesterday, we spoke to you about the platform where you have contacts for partners and investors that are here in this event. And I met a person in the first edition of Blue Invest Africa who gave us 1 hour to talk because we had a problem in our company. This was a conflict of interest kills companies. And I did not think that we would get out of this problem. But thanks to his advice, when we went to Cameroon, we started actions that enabled us to progress. It is with gratitude and pleasure that I would like to call Mr. Alex C. Roscoff, who will moderate our panel discussion. And I will ask you to applaud him as he comes on stage. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. All right, how are we doing? Good. It's a small good. Good-ish. All right, we're going to do quickly something. Before I call all the panelists on stage, I want you to take your phones, which is not often that you would be asked to do this in a conference room, to scan this QR code, which is the same one that you've been using all along. And what we're going to do is kind of a family feud type of panel. You're going to go through, there's 5 questions. I'm going to take you through those 5 questions on the Slido. Have everyone vote. There are different types of approaches, single choice, multiple choice, ranking, and whatnot. Then I'm going to call the panelists on stage, let them introduce themselves, and we're going to ask them the same question. And we're going to see, answering those questions, how do these compare to the answers that you think are the right answers? All right, so I'll let you scan. And as you scan, you'll get access to the first question, which says something around the line of, in your opinion, what challenges are holding back innovation in Africa's blue economy? This first question is a multiple choice, so you can tick more than one answer. Give you 30 seconds. And actually, as you're answering this one, I will call the first panelist on stage to make up for time. Keep answering the first question at least. Jan Willem, do you want to join me on stage? I'll introduce the second question. Investing in Africa's blue economy startup is the new frontier. What sector do you think attracts the biggest investments? This is a single choice. So you pick the one biggest opportunity that you think is out there for startups in the blue economy in Africa. And as you answer this one, I will call our second panelist, Sue. If you want to join us on stage, please. This should be faster. It's a single choice. Third question, what factors are key to unlocking more investment in Africa's blue economy? This is a ranking question. So you need to click, like you've been doing for the pitches before, on all the answers and rank them from the most important to the least important. The most important or interfering factor in investment in the economy in Africa. Now I'll call our third panelist, Bruce. If you're there, saw you this morning, mind joining us on stage, buddy. Thank you. And I'll let the panelists introduce themselves in a second. Fourth questions and penultimate question, stress. What are the biggest concerns about investing in the blue economy in Africa? This is a word cloud. So you need to type the word that corresponds to what you believe is the biggest challenge in less than 25 characters. what is your biggest concern about investing into the blue economy in Africa? I'll call our fourth panelist, Dr. Somorin. You're in the room. I didn't see you earlier today. Yes, you're there. Wonderful. Please join us on stage. That's a word cloud for the fourth question. So you type in 25 characters max. Welcome. And then the fifth and last question. Why are investors increasingly interested in Africa's blue economy, encompassing a range of sectors beyond traditional fisheries, which makes up the vast majority of what the blue economy is in Africa? And this is a single choice. All right. So these are the questions that we're also going to try to tackle with our esteemed panelists. We're going to start, I'm going to actually sit. We're going to start by a quick round of introduction. If each of you, starting with you, Bruce, and then going from your right to Sue, Jan Willem, and Dr. Somorin, could you introduce yourself and your organization briefly, 2 minutes, then we'll come back to the questions that we ask the audience. Please.
Thank you very much, Alexis. I wish we had the timer there. That would be quite useful.
Yeah.
But in any case, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Bruce Nserekolule. I'm a general partner at Seedstar Africa Ventures. Seedstar Africa Ventures is a venture capital fund that invests from an early stage for the people who understand the terms, what we call pre-Series A. And effectively follows on investment all the way to Series B. So putting in tickets effectively that cumulatively come to $5 million and really providing business expertise, capital, business networks to help grow and scale our companies. We're a Pan-African fund and a sector agnostic fund at that. Briefly on myself, I've done over 70 investments across the continent. Many companies have grown and scaled into $1 million valuation companies that are making multi-million-dollar revenues every year. With regards to the environment, I've done investments in companies such as Cocoa Networks. So this is helping 800,000 households in Kenya have a clean cooking solution that is affordable. The likes of Beacon Power Services. This is a company that is providing a software that helps utility providers optimize the provision of power, saving them last year $600 million worth of revenue across 5 utility providers in West Africa. We did that actually under Seedstar Africa Ventures, and Guidewheel, which is effectively a company that is providing softwares to help manufacturers optimize their production processes and utilize resources accordingly. So it's a pleasure to be on this panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Sue, your turn. Susan.
Hello, good morning. So my name is Susan Wanjiku. I'm the technical advisor at GIZ, where we have a new project we're calling Spark. And within Spark, we're working on 3 topics where we're trying to look at climate smart ventures, applied research, and gender equitable. So this 3 combination is what then we're looking to start investing in. And so I'm tasked with building and now starting to invest within an innovation fund for the very first time within GIZ. I think that's very exciting for us, starting to put money out. And so within Spark, we're looking to then support a lot more startups within the blue economy, as we have thought, or we've seen that with climate change, blue economy are synonymous. It's like you have to be working within the oceans. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Susan. Jan Willem.
Yes, hi, good morning. My name is Jan Willem Leur. I'm representing the European Investment Bank. I'm actually responsible for the technical department of the bank. In that sense, we're quite unique. We have a strong technical team operating out of Nairobi. The European Investment Bank, in fact, we're working with everyone here on the panel, also Seedstar Africa, we recently financed. We are the Bank of the EU, so we are owned by the EU member states. We are also referred to as the biggest multilateral development bank given our volume, but we do about 5 billion a year in Africa. We also basically known to do large tickets. So how do we reach the microfinance or the SMEs? Well, we actually do that through partners. We do that through local development banks or local banks. We do it through funds, providing them credit lines and equity. In Tanzania, in fact, we've recently just signed a couple of credit lines with intermediary banks, NMB, KCB, CRDB, to provide finance to blue economy actors, gender, women in business. So I think that is targeting specifically the blue economy. Of course, this is also, we follow EU policy guidelines. So we're not a policy bank, but we're not a policy maker, but we follow policy of the EU. So main policy goal, of course, now is to support Global Gateway and to reach through that, throughout different product lines, the smaller entrepreneurs that are operating in this space. I should also mention that we have ongoing project development technical assistance programs, such as under the Clean Oceans Initiative that we do with partner development banks of the EU, European partners such as AFD, KfW, the Spanish Development Bank, Italian Development Bank. And we provide technical assistance to prepare projects under the COPIP program to develop projects that actually help to reduce pollution going into the oceans, into the rivers, of course, land-based waste that is polluting the ocean. So I think that is, of course, very impactful in terms of making sure that the blue economy thrives and we keep the plastics out of the ocean. That's in a nutshell. We can develop a bit further as the questions come through Slido.
Thank you very much, Willem.
Good morning, everyone. Olufunso Shomorin from the African Development Bank. I lead the work on green growth and climate change for East Africa region, based out of our office here in Nairobi. And I think just to introduce the bank, we're one of the multilateral development banks similar to EIB, purely focused on African issues, particularly on infrastructure development to drive economic and social transformation on the continent. On average, we approve projects worth anything between $8 to $10 billion annually. Now, in the bank, our approach is this: what we call blue, what we call climate resilience, what we call low carbon, they are all nested within our notion of green. So I know we're here, this is a blue economy community, but in the bank, we put everything within the green economy. And what we do is to mainstream green innovations, green ideas in all development projects. So we don't have standalone green projects. What we have is green-informed development projects. And we're able to track what quantum of our global resources on an annual basis goes to green innovation. And that's about 55%. So if we do $10 billion worth of investment in a year, we are able to account for about $5.5 billion of that going into things relevant to green, blue, and climate objectives. And I hope to share some of the facilities that we have that can respond to some of the pitches that we had earlier on, and hopefully share ideas on how to engage the bank. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So we have a quite diverse set of panelists, which is interesting for private investors. Bruce, with this particular data, you invest into SMEs that are not necessarily super tech, whatnot, like digital. A lot of the pitches that we had today and the day before weren't necessarily relying 100% on digital technology. So it's pretty interesting to have you in the room. Hopefully you'll be making some good conversations. Sue, I'm picking up on this idea of science to enable better development of sustainable solutions. And indeed, you can't improve things that you don't thoroughly understand. When it comes to ocean economy, ocean impact, obviously having a better understanding in science is definitely something that will help us inform the right decision. Willem, talking about SDGs and impact, you give examples of things that are not directly within the blue economy per se, but that are directly impacting. You talked about retail and pollution that are directly impacting the ocean economy, which is quite interesting. And Olufunso, I hear there's a bit of a, I like that actually. You're putting $8 to $10 billion right after Jan Williams putting $5 billion, but I think that the EIB is an investor of the AFDB to some extent, trying to mainstream the green investment into our economy, and they cannot be green without blue, right? So with that, and potentially with the intention to compare what the audience thinks, we asked everyone, what challenges do you think are holding back? Because the African blue economy development has been going on for a while, obviously, and it's only starting to pick up more rapidly in the last 3 to 5 years. What do you think, and I'll go back to you, Bruce, first, what do you think was one of the biggest challenges that was holding back that growth? No, don't look at the answer. Look at me.
I was interested to see what
You'll
everyone
compare,
else
don't
said.
worry. We'll do that.
But yeah, I believe there's probably two key challenges that we have. I agree with the crowd. Generally, access to funding is a big problem that we have. I think when I think of the venture capital space, I've been active now for about 10 years in it, and I don't think of many companies that have been able to raise financing. Maybe it is because the way that the companies that we have been structured doesn't per se fit the VC or PE space per se, or the way it's being sold. But it seems that there is a lack of financing for blue initiatives. I think there's, and that kind of alludes to my next answer, I think there's a potential lack of understanding. So an understanding of what opportunities actually exist in the blue economy that could, yes, derive a strong return for investors, but at the same time benefit the blue economy and the blue environment. So for me, I think these are probably the two biggest challenges that we see in this industry.
Thanks. I'll jump to you, Jan Willem. What's the role of government funding? And I mean, we have different representatives of the government funding, public funding, but what are the innovative ways that we can use finance, you as an enabling organization for the flow of financing, to bring more financing to the MSME level? To go back to the answer that the public said around, the biggest challenge being access to funding. How can you enable financing, funding, trickling down to the where it's most needed in the blue economy space in Africa from an EIB perspective?
Yeah, as I said, we do large ticket sizes, so we really need our local partner banks to roll out and the funds to roll out venture equity finance, or which is early stage, of course, but also junior debt. So we're working through instruments that are financed through the European Union under guarantee mechanisms, which de-risk exposure of local banks to new sectors. So what we're doing, local banks are often not familiar with the risks that are entailed in certain sectors that we would like them to encourage to invest more in. So women-led businesses, blue economy, but also the agriculture business in general. So we also, through the European Union, provide technical assistance to banks to train and to help them develop pipelines, solid pipelines that would, enable access to finance by SMEs. And I think that is probably the way that, at least from the European Investment Bank's perspective, and also the African Development Bank has a lot of these type of facilities as well, where we can really provide much needed finance locally, but it has to be through assisting local credit agencies, banks to reach that market. We cannot do it from where we're sitting, although we have offices all over Africa, I would say. But we don't have.
You de-risking using finance, you're enabling to overcome this perception of the perceived risk that there is in investing into that space.
Yes, I mean, the idea of these product lines is basically to de-risk that portfolio that we would like them to, the sector that we would like them to invest in, to help them de-risk, so they need to, so that it reduces the risk on the balance sheets. But we also provide, I wouldn't say, I mean, lower, of course, lower than capital market interest rates that are attractive for entrepreneurs to lend. So it's not. I mean, it's still a loan. It still needs to become. Still needs to come back.
Money needs to come back.
We do accept that that there is, of course, a risk that some of the money will be lost, but you know, it's not grant funding.
Thank you. Orufunzo, do you have an example of an innovative finance mechanism that the EFDB offers to ensure that the money trickles down from the big check to where it's needed most on the ground to grow the African group?
Great. Thank you, Alexis. Well, if you allow me, the question that you've just asked him, I think it's also important to understand that finance, in whatever form, does not exist in an institutional vacuum. It's very much, finance is nested within the overarching political framework or the engagement framework in the country. And that's why there is an abundance of capital in one part of the world and there is a deficient, base of capital in another part of the world. Because the political structures that hold capital, they're not the same across the world. And what is important is the resources that we have, we then begin to use them in a very smart way to perhaps, starting point, begin to address those bottlenecks. And one of them is policy. I strongly believe the biggest driver of change on the African continent is going to be policy. And supporting that work through some of the facilities, usually grant facilities, we provide enabling technical assistance to government. And basically the whole idea is to help them understand the opportunities in that sector and be able to see what policy initiatives need to be in place, consistent with unlocking the capital that is needed. We need to move money from where it is most abundant to where it is most needed. That's the first part. The second part is then to begin to develop some tailor-made instruments on the ground to be able to fit into the local realities. Just listening to some of the pitches today, some of the things that we are pitching about in the blue economic space. In another space, we'll call it circular economy, purely circular economy. In another space, we'll call it resilience thinking. And so the ability to frame that across multiple boundaries creates a diversity of opportunities. And I think it's very important. And what we then do is to then begin to look at instruments that are able to speak to certain sectors, but there are also instruments that can speak to across multiple sectors. So I'll give you an example. The bank has created what we call the African Circular Economy Alliance. Traditionally, we would do big ticket size projects, like you said, lend to government millions of dollars. And if we're not able to do that to a project that's asking for just $120,000, we're able to create an intermediary through local banks or through local private entities that are able to deploy that capital and be able to do the fiduciary and the risk management requirement in order to deploy that. In some cases, we've got these kind of instruments like the circular economy. And basically the whole idea is you have up to $500,000 of resources that you can tap into and demonstrate the result. But you can't just do that for the sake of funding a beautiful project. You must be able to link it to unlocking an economic activity. And this is somewhere we stop at the idea at the level of thinking of a beautiful idea that is implementable, that has business case, but we don't think of it as part of a much larger economy in terms of unlocking opportunities. So we'd love to hear things about how many jobs are you creating, how is it changing the local economic dynamics, but how is it also contributing in terms of tax revenue to the government. So it's important to understand that money is there, but how do we restructure our enterprise systems in order to fit into what the money is looking for?
Sue, how do we structure our enterprise to have them access the funding that's out there? GIZ is working in providing another type of de-risking factor, not using credit lines, but using technical assistance and providing another type of support that makes the journey of entrepreneurship a bit more, a bit less bumpy, I guess, in the blue economy space. How do you go about this? What does that bring to the entrepreneurs so they can better secure or more easily secure funding?
So with technical assistance, it's actually how we're known to operate, right? And I think that's the beauty of Spark, because we are starting to say that we see, say, I mean, most people who know me within the room have seen me working within innovation ecosystem, but more sector agnostic. And now coming into Spark is that we're then having a more climate focus. And because we are starting to say that we've worked in the ecosystem for about 7 years and we've tried to build it to be more resilient, more future oriented, but with even all the capacity building, everybody's overtaught. Everybody knows how to pitch. Everybody knows how to fundraise. Where's the money? You know? And the question about money then keeps becoming consistent. And we're like, okay, well, we can only teach so much. Let's start finding the money. And so the way we are looking at it now to blend that technical capacity is to start figuring out blended financial models. So how do we mitigate risk as GIZ for venture capital or for financial banks, for financial now institutions, so that they have an easier landing? Because say within even blue economy is that you're coming in to invest in infrastructure. So if you're thinking that what's my return on investment, then the entrepreneur does not have collateral. They do not have assets to declare that are worthy to receive the investment that is there. So then we're starting to come in and to say, okay, we need to start putting in money. And I think even for a development partner, that's going to be quite the first. And that's why I'm very open to saying, like, yes, talk to me if you're building a fund also. Let's figure out how to get money into the innovation ecosystem.
Thank you. Interesting. I think the answer to the first question that I've asked you kind of already nudges towards the second question that we've asked the public. So I would be keen to have the answers up, possibly. The question was, what factors are key to unlocking more investment in Africa's blue economy? The choices were policy, and you talked about policy as an important driver, Dr. Somorina Olufunzo. There was another choice around improve access to finance at early stages, which we also covered with the two of you. And stronger data infrastructure was something that we haven't talked about, but capacity building and training is definitely something that we approach, and increased collaboration between private and public sector. And I'm also quite eager to see what people thought. Improved access to, it's all about money here. Huh? The first question was, we need more money. The second question is, we need more money. All right, interesting. Your head is on bounty, guys. All right, I want to move to the third question. I just want to, just a quick one about the data, because it's something we haven't talked about, right? In terms of investment, it's quite important to have access to data points. One of the biggest struggles in the blue economy is that we lack track record. We don't have a lot of data, positive investment and exits. It's something that we're missing across the globe. How do you work, Bruce, I'm going back to you, how do you create your own data sets to kind of inform a decision of investment, given the fact that there's not a lot of, it's quite trailblazing to invest into the blue economy in Africa at the moment?
Hello? Sorry. That's a very challenging question, actually. So, how do you back an investment where you feel there is limited data? Especially when I'm thinking about the blue economy, I think a lot of the new innovations, new business models that are being developed are actually following traditional businesses. Be it agriculture, be it logistics, be it so on and so forth. So I think the data points do exist, per se, maybe for more traditional business. You're creating that enhancement to that business. So you can effectively create data points of what is existing, and then effectively model in the innovation that business is particularly bringing in to deliver a better outcome. So, for example, if we're looking at agriculture, there's the traditional method of a man or woman getting on a boat and fishing. But now we have effectively, more sophisticated methods of doing so, growing fishes effectively in cages, making sure that they have X amount of resource, so on and so forth. So effectively, one can model, based off what I'm doing, what should be my effective improved outcomes. So I think it's still possible.
Very good. I love your answer. a lot of the African blue economy in particular is a sum of existing old businesses, right? We talked about earlier, Jan and Willem, you were talking about the policy alignment with the European Commission that is very, just passed the restoration of nature law, actually, recently, aligned with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 14 being the least, most underfunded. It's something that obviously we all need to work towards. You were saying, Bruce, that a lot of the African blue economy is based on existing food security and other more traditional even type of industries. So we do have a bit of data, and I appreciate that. You're a private investor. You can take your chances here and there. Going to you, Jan Willem, you are a public investor. You have to respect a certain gradient and level of risk. To evaluate that risk from 1 to 7, you need data. How do you go about investing into the blue economy when we have little data, or the data that exists out there is scattered or sometimes unverified?
Hello? Yeah. When we invest in blue economy, we're looking at private and we're looking at public. So, we've done over 7 billion of blue economy investment over the last 5 years. In Africa. A lot of that has gone also to large infrastructure projects such as port development projects, wastewater management plants, solid waste management along the coast and river basins. And that is typically, senior debts. It's sovereign to the states. And as we get into the more risky portfolio, we again go down to our funds that we invest in and the intermediary banks, and we do rely on their ability to analyze and to assess risk. Again, as I said previously, in the sectors that we would like them to invest more in and that they're less familiar with, we provide technical assistance through European Union support programs to understand and to that risk portfolio, that risk a bit better. Because as you said, a lot of the businesses are relatively new. There's not a lot of data sets. So we do rely also on partners like GIZ to help intermediary lenders, but also credit smaller enterprises to develop a business case, regarding projected growth and market risk.
Thanks. I'll bounce off the word sector that you've used just now, and I've realized that I'm probably making the people at the back a bit of a nightmare because I didn't follow the order of the questions. Excuse me, Andrea. Can we go back to the second question about what is the biggest, what is the sector that the people think in the room is attracting the biggest investment today in Africa? And Olumfudu, can you give us your take on that? What do you think? Don't look at the answer. What do you think is the sector within the blue economy that attracts, not Sue, come on. You're so... you will answer the same question. What do you think is...
I'm giving my highest.
Yeah, there. Watch the time. We have 20 minutes left. Yeah. What do you think is the sector that attracts the most investment in Africa today in the blue economy?
The sector that needs the most, or that is
currently attracting the most?
All right, so my answer is going to be biased because I'm a DFI, and I think largely
development funding institution.
I think it's infrastructure.
Infra, yeah, okay.
And I want us to think about infrastructure in the broader terms, because there's a soft side of infrastructure, which is very much the knowledge, the capacity, the knowledge generation, and there's the hard side of infrastructure, which is about, the hard mortar. And when you also think about what do we think might be the biggest need in the blue economy space, I'm still going to say it's still infrastructure. On the African continent today, as we speak today, only 17% of the needed infrastructure is currently in existence. So there's an 83% infrastructure gap on the continent. And then what that means is that we have an opportunity to follow a development pathway that is, blue mainstream, green mainstream, resilience mainstream, and all the part, rather than building an infrastructure that you're coming back later on to retrofit and to make green. And so that deficiency on our part, 83% represent an opportunity, a gap, and that we must be able to think critically into how we should build our infrastructure going forward. So I'll keep it there for now. Thank you.
What is infrastructure in the blue economy? I think I have an idea, but can you expand a little bit? What do you mean by infrastructure?
And look, and I think it probably starts from what we call blue economy. If we all agree in this room that blue economy is a summation of all economic activities, consistent around the ocean and the sustainability of the ocean, then we're talking about, touching on almost everything. 80% of global trade is happening on the blue economy.
So you're saying
the infrastructure,
the thing that attracts the most investment in the blue economy in Africa is almost everything.
I mean, to a large extent, it touches on almost everything because there's a production side of things, but there's also consumption side. And if you don't think of the trade that moves them around,
so
which
ports
blue economy,
and shipping, right? That's support infrastructure. Okay, cool. Port infrastructure. Another one.
Energy.
Energy.
Renewable
right. Marine
energy.
renewable energies, wave, tidal. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a third one? I think 2 is good enough.
Also, the financial resources, the financial systems that is able to power that. That is also part of infrastructure.
All right.
And then you think about IT as well, connectivity.
Good one. Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Getting access to more IT, more data to everyone.
Absolutely.
Sue, now you've looked at it, right? Wanted to go. You haven't? What do you think attracts the most investment today in the blue economy in Africa?
So because I'm Kenyan, I could start by saying, because I didn't look at the answers, tourism.
Which one said?
Tourism.
Tourism. All right. So tourism.
So that's more generic, right?
Yeah.
So of course we are in Diani, white sand beaches. That's in a very, very generic way. Is that we have the best beaches in the world, and everybody's coming here. So spend all your money. Yeah.
Right. Spend your money, guys.
So
but you have the most money in the room. Don't be shy. Walk the talk.
Yeah, I think moving on from that, of course, then there's aquaculture because of fish farming. Say when we think of startups or younger businesses like Victory Farms, Aqua Reg, that are receiving crazy investment, within the ecosystem right now. In fact, when we start to map out, and I really like what you said about how blue economy, what is blue economy? Because then it's like, it can be circular, it can be, it morphs to many things from what traditionally within the ecosystem it has existed as. So it definitely is within aquaculture, and I'm thinking that it continues because now we're starting to look at clean tech, and within clean energy also we're starting to think wind. We're starting to think, how do we have less dependency on fossil fuels? Also that comes back to blue economy. So then within that range, you have, I guess, those three on top of mind.
All right, I'm going to look at the results because I don't even see them from where I'm seated. Okay, aquaculture, good one. Land-based fish farming, ecotourism, well done. Okay, you're doing well. Okay, bioplastic, coastal wind farms, some marine renewables, and desal. It's actually still moving live. 82 votes. Impressive. So there's increasing investment into the blue economy, into fish. Food security is a big thing. Obviously, we need to have access to proteins. And we've seen amazing pictures today on how to make this a circular economy, right? No fish waste goes, no more waste. We're recycling the skin to make leather and everything. It's pretty interesting. Right, let me move on to the next question. I think it was a word cloud. One is giving me troubles here. There you go. All right, what is your biggest concern, for people that was voting earlier, about investing into the blue economy in Africa? And this was a word cloud, so we didn't have any prompts for them to be able to respond. But what is your best advice that you could give? Bruce, I'm going back to you. I'm going to try and keep the same equitable time to everyone. And disclaimer, we will have to speed up because we know you have to leave at 1:15, Bruce. What it would be the biggest concern about investing into the blue economy in Africa? Sorry about this. Your 1 or 2 words, if you had the ability to change the things that as they are today, to make it easier for you to invest into the blue economy. People had to answer with 1 word. You can have 1 sentence.
So I think with regards to your question more broadly, I think it's important for the blue economy to create investment opportunities for investors that generate returns and attractive returns. As a whole venture capital space, even looking at this from a broader perspective, Africa has had a dip in venture capital of about 40% last year in comparison to the year before. And really what created that is higher interest rates in the United States and developed economies because they were trying to solve for inflation and so on, which effectively meant that investors there were able to gain quite good returns, effectively risk-free. And that really meant that our economies had to deliver a relatively strong rate of return to attract investment. And unfortunately, at such times, we also had our own problems. So our currencies devalued and it became very difficult to, grow, scale, and derive these returns. If we want to see money coming into a blue economy, yes, to improve the environment, so on and so forth, but also to positively impact our, the people that are dependent on them and so on. The blue economy needs to derive a strong return because investors effectively put their money where it makes money for them. So for me, that is, my biggest concern. I think with more information that is being developed from the likes of GIZ, thankfully, and with the support of EIB and AFDB, these opportunities are coming out. But I think we probably need to have a stronger effort to bring out that information of, the attractive investment opportunities that, effectively make money.
Jan Willem, how do we align? Clearly, I'll rephrase that actually. Can we achieve market rate returns whilst trying to have positive impact, social and environmental impact in the investment space today of the blue economy?
Absolutely. There's no reason why you shouldn't have market returns in this space. But of course, you need some enabling factors, which is, of course, enabling framework. You need to have good regulation. You need to have good country strategies would help to identify exactly, what is the strategy, what is the priority in the blue investment space. And of course, you need financing, but that's obvious. I did want to take the opportunity now you've given me the mic again, just to circle back on the investments, the biggest investments. For the bank at least, it's been energy. That's mostly because of large wind farms we financed in Europe. I would say in Africa, and what's needed more is investment in reducing pollution that goes into the oceans. So again, water treatment, wastewater treatment plants, solid waste management, on land-based pollutants that are actually hindering development in the blue economy. I think that is probably, there's a long way to go, also, especially also in West Africa, but also along this coastline. There's a tremendous amount of waste going into the oceans that can really, through proper planning and strategizing and prioritization of governments, can be tackled. So I'd like to also make an appeal to governments to prioritize investments in solid waste management and water treatment.
80% of ocean-based pollution comes from land, and pollution is the second most impacting factor for the loss of biodiversity, which is one of our triple crises, big time. It is very important indeed. So you were saying that it is possible to achieve market rate return, not just returns, market rate returns, so high returns. I think in the VC space, we sit at about 12 to 15%, right? 20% IRR, and you're having a positive impact. Oh, you need to talk to these guys, entrepreneurs. If he's achieving 20% IRR, that's amazing. That's what you should be targeting. All right. I'm repeating for everyone to understand, and perhaps also make sure you have the mic so that people online can hear you when you speak. And don't shy away. If you want to say something, don't wait for me to give you the mic. This is obviously all of the questions, and by the way, all of the questions I've been asking, they didn't know and didn't prepare in advance.
So Alex, I can repeat that for your sake, yes. So effectively, VCs are targeting at least a 20% IRR.
At least a 20% IRR. Interesting. Do you have, Olufunso, a case where you've been able to achieve market rate returns whilst, achieving social benefits and environmental impact?
So the good thing about the capital that we have is we place higher premium on development outcomes, much more than just economic after financial return on investment. And in fact, within the bank, we've developed a methodology to quantify that what we call non-monetary return and put a value on it in order to be able to make a decision whether we support a project or not. So it's an additionality and development outcome type of approach. And I think it's also very important to speak to the investor community that obviously the goal is that there's a return on your capital, but also it's very important that we place value on even non-monetary results of projects. And one of the biggest missing link in the global system of today, financial system of today, is that viability is largely characterized by return on investment. What is the value of a clean ocean? Yeah. Does that factor into project viability matrix or not? So, and then that comes to the value of development finance, because we can then provide these grant and concessional loans, and we de-risk the investment. In some cases, take the first loss. Then private capital can then come in and hopefully achieve that level of market rate. So it has to be a blend of instruments, but somebody must do the hard work, and that's what development finance can do.
I love that. Yeah, ecosystem services. There's a price to everything in nature today, right? And the system that we evolve in has this concept or construct that things have value only when they're dead. Right? A living, thriving fisheries, a fish in the ocean has no value until you fish it out. A standing tree has no value today until you chop it down and turn it into paper or something like the timber. And that's definitely something that we all need to work towards and encompass into the system that we operate in today. Sue, what's the role of technical assistance or capacity building, which was a very strong word that was used? Capacity building. I guess capacity sharing is a bit more politically correct. What's the role of capacity sharing in trying to align economic growth with social and environmental impact? That's...
Before I come to that, I think I wanted to respond to what my colleague here also had responded on, what to think about when investing in things like blue economy. And I think when we're talking investment right now, and especially within this economy, I think my previous heart within venture capital informs me like this is the one part that we really need patient capital, so that as we start to figure out the blended financial models that we will come in with, it really needs to be patient, because what we were saying that also infrastructure is such a big need. You don't build infrastructure in a day, not 3 years, it's climate, maybe it will take 10 years. And so there's going to be a lot of then need for R&D money. Yeah. So first to my colleagues that yes, we will agree that we will do that. And then the other is on gender stereotypes. Breaking gender stereotypes, because this is a very heavily male-dominated ecosystem, and not because I'm here, not because I'm speaking on that, but more of where women play within the value chains. Yeah. So the more you look at it, the more you realize that actually, that will need to flip. Why are women not fishing, for example? So then where is the money at? And that's where we need to think about. And traditionally, as other economies say, like agriculture, where also have women played, say within agriculture, it's the same. So as we come in, we have an opportunity to do that. To your question, could you please repeat it?
What's the role of capacity building, which is one of the strongest words that we're seeing in the world now, in aligning economic return with, or ensuring that there are social benefits and environmental impacts baked into the businesses that you support whilst driving economic returns?
Yeah. So I think first within capacity building is that we need to tailor make it more to first inform. Yeah. So as we come in, it's not typical. There's nothing typical about this economy. In fact, even within capacity building, as we provide technical assistance, is that so for what? So first, if it's hardware, that's, we need skills. We need local skills to be able to make sure that we're not bringing in hardware from other parts of the world that cannot be handled here. Yeah, so that's big on renewable energy, that we saw that within the solar energy environment, where we installed a lot of it and then it crashed, and we don't have local individuals who can maintain them. Yeah, so relooking at it, when we're looking at also bringing digitalization within the blue economy. So digitalization will also play such a big part, because there's a lot of then mechanization, and also you can have mechanization and like you can separate them. Yeah, so it will help us accelerate within learnings. Yeah, so I would say that. And of course, again, making sure that we have gender equitability, making sure that we don't leave men also behind within allies, as allies. And for that, actually, we're running a program on Afrofeminist change makers, where we're having angel investors as women coming to start investing in startups and and SMEs. And it's more to say that as we have seen, women are more intimidated to come pitch and the kind. How do we make it more friendly for them? How do we make sure that they're participating, other than saying you're encouraged to apply? How do we make it actually feasible? So yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. I think it's quite interesting. We're seeing that the Development Bank are having a top-down, how do we trickle the money from the top down to where it's needed? The GIZ and the likes that are doing technical assistance, you working, investing in kind, upskilling bottom up, to kind of meet where Bruce sits at the middle. Not to say that, it's make or break, right? You're in the middle, so you're either squashed on both sides, or you just have the best seat in this conversation, because people are de-risking your investment all along, making your IRR 20%. We're out of time. I would like to get the last question up, Andrea, and the guys at the back. We're not going to answer it, but because people took the time to answer it, if we could have it up so we can see it. I would like, if you had just to wrap us up, if you had a magic wand and one wish that you could make come true for the blue economy in Africa, what would that wish be? Take a second or two, think about it. I'll turn around and look at what the results are to these questions. Why are investors increasingly interested in Africa's blue economy, encompassing a range of sectors beyond traditional fisheries? All of the above. Okay, interesting. I don't want to pronounce myself. Untapped markets and opportunities for job creation is the second. So job creation, and especially transition jobs, is a big one in the blue economy, and especially in the marine renewable sector, moving away from the fossil fuel and going into changing a little bit live, into renewable energies. Potential for innovation and development of sustainable practices overall, especially because Africa can leapfrog. It's not necessarily entrenched into a system, so it can adopt those sustainable practices, and that's getting more momentum at the moment. And abundant natural resources and growing costs of consumer demand. Obviously, the global south in general, and I don't really like the term, has more natural resources than the north that has been destroying and exploiting everything. And I'm from the north, so I can tell you that. Cool, Bruce, before you jump off because you have your IC call at the bottom of the hour, if you had a magic wand, what would you want? What would be your wish for the African blue economy?
I'll tell you two quick things. So answering your question, I really wish that we find a way to remove the negative impact that humans have had on the ocean. All the pollution, all the removing of resources irresponsibly, so on and so forth. That would be my biggest wish. So we could enjoy the beautiful corals once again and all the beautiful ecosystem that exists there that we actually haven't fully discovered, something that hasn't come up today. And then just a quick point, to mention on investors on the continent, from the VC space and private equity space. They are, I think on the continent, they are concerned about ESG considerably. So majority of investors do look, yes, are looking at a return, but are also looking at the impact of an environment, of an investment to the environment and to the society that they effectively serve. Agreed with what my colleagues are saying. It is an important aspect to look at, and investors are interested in that. So it's, that is good.
I'll come back to ESG outside at the beer time this evening, because I think it's more de-risking investment in the face of climate change than actually achieving impact. Sue, what's your magic wish? What's your wish, sorry, with your magic wand?
Thank you for saying the first one. Yeah. So I have
you can
one
have
more.
the same wish.
Yeah. I come back to post-harvest waste. Yeah, so we are working a lot and into production, and there's, that's what we're investing in. But I think also then at the end of it is like within the value chain is like there's a lot of waste over then lack of infrastructure, with the storage, with the cooling and access to it, especially within the within the environments that the production is happening. So yeah, that would be my last wish.
So remove what's there, cut what's going there. Jan Willem.
Well, if I had a magic wand and also want my colleague to go to his investment committee, so I'll keep it short because he needs to spend our money. That the governments and financiers continue to improve the investment climate. I think there's still a long way to go in terms of bureaucracy, regulation. We also need to we need to keep improving the ecosystem for young investors to learn from also larger companies. So it would be amazing if the next edition of this event could include larger corporates that could also help young entrepreneurs develop their businesses.
I love that. Thanks, Jan Willem. Yes, get more private sector and less bureaucracy.
Great. So I imagine somebody's in the crowd and is asking, what do investors really, really look for? What do they really want? How can I really, what do I need to do in order to be able to get money? So we operate too high up, but I'll tell you something from experience. Over the last 20 years of working in the adaptation and resilience space, finance flows in three directions. The first is finance flows in the direction of a solvable problem that has become a business opportunity. A solvable problem that has become, and if it's more of a problem for millions of people, the better it is. Secondly, finance flows in the direction of capacity and capability. It's not just in how to put an idea together, but also ability to demonstrate how you have managed limited resources. Financial management, bookkeeping, recording, and the last part, finance flows in the direction of partnership. A partnership that's built on trust. Everything stands start and end with partnership. Whatever form of interaction between the demand side and the supply side, it is partnership. And embracing it from a partnership mindset is very critical. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you very much. I think we can give them a huge round of applause, because I hate panels where everything is already prepared. So I gave them just framing questions and just improvise on the spot. So really well done. Once again, please, thank you very much, guys. Floor is yours.
See. Merci.
Thank you, dear panelists, for this brilliant discussion and for all this useful data that you've given to us, dear participants. We would like to remind you once more that you are going to take a coffee break of 15 minutes long. But before the coffee break, we are going to come back to the announcement that was done before. There's a raffle that is going on. Results will be announced over lunch. You can go to the MSME Coral Spirit stand, understand their product, and participate in the raffle that will happen.
The team, that was very, very good information. So as we go for a coffee break, remember you stand a chance to win a boat ride in Diani, in the Indian Ocean. So you just pass by Coral Aqua. They have very nice, adventure boats. You can see the fish as you take a ride. And all you need to do is exchange your contact You get a raffle ticket, and voila. All right, thank you so much. So we'll take a break. Let's try and keep it brief, 30 minutes.
Absolument.
Thank you.
À tout à l'heure.
Yeah.
See you soon.